how great he is in your life? Come on, just love on the Lord. I'm talking about your Savior.
WBISLP 1069, Winterville, Ayden, Grifton, Southside, Greenville, North Carolina.
Motivations with Glenn.
Good day, everyone. This is Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, WBISLP. You are tuned into the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn, and my co-host, Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. Our topic of this discussion, probably for the next couple of weeks, is Brain Injury Awareness Month. March is Brain Injury Awareness Month. Here's a 15-second audio clip before I give it over to my co-host, Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams.
March is Brain Injury Awareness Month. Learn more about brain injury by calling the Brain Injury Association at 1-800-444-6443, 1-800-444-6443. Visit their website at biausa.org.
Okay, this is the official kickoff for Brain Injury Awareness Month. I'm going to turn it over now to my co-host, Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams.
Hey, Dr. Glenn, and to our listening audience on today. It is a good rainy day here, and I'm just glad to be here on today. I'm glad for this subject again that we've become familiar with. And as Dr. Glenn said, it is Brain Injury Awareness Month. And so this is a time when we remember or look at those that, and as he said, the next couple of weeks that have suffered traumatic brain injuries. And so there's a lot of information on this. We're going to have some guests that are going to come through, hopefully on next week and maybe a couple of the other weeks. And so we're kicking off this month with Brain Injury Awareness Month. And so, Dr. Glenn, I thought it would be a good idea on this show, or a good thing, for you to share your remarkable testimony with us. You know, for our listeners that have not heard, or that do not know that you yourself had a traumatic brain injury and you survived and you're here and you're doing well and God has blessed you. So I feel like that would be a great thing to start out our show with, for those that don't know, and for those that sometimes just hear your voice on my broadcast, because you know my camera's not always turned around that way, so they can know, or at least hear, you know, how good God is and where he brought you from. So if you could kick us off today with letting us know and giving us some things about traumatic brain injury.
That's a very good idea, Jackie. I'm going to keep it brief, my story, because it's rather lengthy. But to boil it all down in a nutshell, this is a condensed version. I am a survivor of a near-fatal motorcycle accident that occurred in 2010, where I was on life support and in a coma for 2 years, with the entire right side of my head missing. From what my family was telling me, my head was swollen to the size of a beach ball. Doctors had called my family in because they thought they should discontinue life support on me. They didn't think I was going to survive, but I made it through. Glory be to God in the name of Jesus. But anyway, so I have a permanent brain injury. I have a permanent injury to my cerebellum, which causes my vestibular system to be off. I think I just found out a couple weeks ago, in addition to my vestibular system, the vestibular system, what they call, referred to as being out of whack, is also a direct correlation with equilibrium. You know, sometimes people might say, well, he's acting kind of funny, walking kind of strange. His equilibrium might be off. That has occurred in people, and I think there's something similar to what I have also. I want to point out a couple of things about brain injury. Brain injury itself is the unrecognizable illness. It has no face, has no color. It's unrecognizable. Could you live in North Carolina and have a brain injury and not know it? The answer to that question is yes. You can live anywhere, including North Carolina, with a brain injury. People walk around every day not aware of the fact, yeah, they might have a brain injury due to some type of occurrence that caused that brain injury. And brain injury, there's two types. There's traumatic. A traumatic brain injury is like blunt force trauma, getting hit upside the head, car accident, slip and fall, and hitting your head, things of that nature, or shaking baby syndrome, where somebody has shaken that baby because your brain is just suspended inside of a shell, just moving about your skull and fluid. You know, they're not aware of that. So that's what causes shaking baby syndrome. When you're shaking that baby, you're shaking that brain. That brain's got to be beaten upside the skull. There's also acquired brain injury. ABI, there's TBI, traumatic brain injury. ABI, acquired brain injury. Acquired brain injury is if you have suffered a stroke or possibly had a tumor in your brain. And like my grandson, who passed at 2 years old, it was discovered when he was 14 months old because my son thought he had a seizure, called 911, got him to Vitamin when they were Vitamin. Upon all the initial examinations and been in the hospital for a while, they determined not only did he have a seizure, he also had a stroke and he had a cancerous brain tumor. They was able to go in and remove 90% of the tumor. But after being in the hospital, he recovered. They sent him home. The next phone call I got a couple months later was from my daughter. And my daughter said, hey, Dad, you know, they sent the hospice over to Jeff's house for Caleb. I said, don't tell me that, because I knew what that meant right away. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, to make a long story short, he did not survive. He passed away the Sunday before Christmas at 2 years old. And so, we all prayed and prayed and prayed. But you know how God works. It's beyond our human comprehension. You see, God doesn't supply you what you might need, because we prayed and prayed that we would have a full recovery. But God chose to call him home. And that was a good thing, because God gave us what we needed and not what we wanted. God gave us what we needed, because had he survived, who would have knew if he'd have needed long-term care, around-the-clock care? You know what I mean? So I think, glory be to God, because God called him home so he wouldn't have to endure no more suffering. So that was a couple of things I wanted to mention about brain injury. I'll mention one more thing before I give it back over to Jackie with 2 minutes ago. Also, we're going to focus on a part of diabetes, and that's diabetes thrombosis. Thrombosis, right? No, I think I'm saying that wrong. You have that document in front of you. I just had it on the tip of my tongue.
I might have it here somewhere. I think it's in the back here.
Because I got two words on my mind.
It happens, Dr. Glenn.
Yeah.
Diabetes, ketoacidosis.
Yeah, ketoacidosis. That's what I knew I was saying it wrong. So diabetes, ketoacidosis, and how that affects the brain, and have a correlation between diabetic ketoacidosis and brain injury. And that's usually found in people with type 1 diabetes and not taking insulin properly. So we'll explore a couple of those things before we end this broadcast on brain injury. Jackie, 1 minute and a half.
Yes, Dr. Glenn, I enjoyed hearing, and even I did not know about your grandson that you had lost, and so my condolences and sympathy concerning that. But I heard you say that, you know, how God chooses, and He is the one that is in charge of it, and how everybody prayed, and everybody prayed for healing and healing and healing. And let me tell you something, I just needed to throw this in there on today, that God heals in more than one way. Either He heals you on this side, or when you go on the other side, you are healed. So He still healed him.
Yeah.
He just didn't heal him on this side. He just healed him on the other side. He was healed. When you leave from here, there is no, you know, you're healed. You're done. This life and this body is done. And now you're over in the spirit world.
And just because of what you just said, God healed him on that side, because at his funeral, and particularly at the gravesite, you know, since I'm a veteran and I know a lot of things about 200 unknown soldiers. So I said at the gravesite, here lies in honor and glory, a child known but to God, because that's what it is. And God called him home to be with him. So may he rest in peace forever, Caleb.
Yes, we're getting ready to go out on our first break, so we're going to ask you to keep it right here and come on back. We look forward to seeing you when we come back from this break.
Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. Back in a moment.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
From the Pacific Justice Institute, this is The Legal Edge, defending your rights as a Christian, a parent, and a citizen. Here's Brad Dacus.
PJI has filed suit against Brookhaven Science Associates on violations of Title VII religious discrimination. You see, our client was an employee for over 20 years and was denied because her religious convictions about the COVID vaccines were deemed, quote, not sincere. Well, Pacific Justice Institute is proudly representing this individual and fighting for her religious convictions. To stay updated on this New York case and over 200 others, sign up for our free weekly e-newsletter, The Legal Insider, at pji.org.
PJI provides legal representation without charge. Get exclusive email updates by registering for The Legal Insider at pji.org.
This is Ruth W. Council, and I listen religiously to WVIS Awesome Radio 106.9 FM.
If you've experienced a brain injury, you are not alone. For help, call the Brain Injury Association today at 1-800-444-6443, 1-800-444-6443. Visit their website at biausa.org. Research, treatment, and support. Help speed recovery.
Sorry about that. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivation with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. We're going to continue our topic of discussion on brain injury awareness. I would like to first point out something before I give it back over to Jackie, because I know she probably has some more questions for me. And that is, the Brain Injury Association of North Carolina is doing a tremendous job, because I am a sitting member of the advisory council appointed by the governor in 2022 to the Brain Injury Association Advisory Council. The Brain Injury Association Advisory Council, its mission is to help families in need, for people with the brain injury or who needs care around the clock and things of that nature concerning a brain injury. But what I want to point out about the Brain Injury Association in particular is they're working expeditiously to have better screening for all of our North Carolinians, because as the director of the Brain Injury Association pointed out, we don't want a child end up going to the emergency room for a little cut or scratch on their forehead, and then come to find out later they have a concussion or a brain injury. And that has happened. So they work diligently to change some of the screening processes on how they approach people, how they assess people from injuries, not knowing that they might have a brain injury when they don't know, and then determine later that they do. So they're doing a tremendous job on getting better screening processes and things of that nature. Jackie.
Yes, and Dr. Glenn, I had written down a few things here that we may not have on our particular paper, but I looked up the 5 main causes of traumatic brain injury, and it said here, and it had five main causes. Number one was falls. That a lot of times people have a traumatic brain injury, they suffer it from falls. That's something to think about. That you could just trip and fall and think that you're just going to be, it's just a little fall, and the next thing you know, you could be suffering a traumatic brain injury.
Which is why also the Brain Injury Association of North Carolina have various subcommittees, like Children and Youth Subcommittee and seniors, because of slip and falls of that nature. So, of course, they're very concerned about seniors, and particularly slipping and falling. It could be in their residential apartment, home, or just out in general. So that's why they have a subcommittee for the seniors.
Yes, and falls are so common. Dr. Glenn, I literally almost fell today. I got up and my knee locked on me, and the next thing you know, I was almost down. And I said, oh my goodness. So it can happen even though you're not really paying attention, and you think, well, that elderly people are more, susceptible to it, but it could happen to anybody.
Let me ask you a question. Just so your knee gave out on you, or did it just buckle?
It just buckled. It just locked up on me.
Well, the reason why I asked, and I kind of figured that because, I have a total left knee replacement. Because mine buckled one time, and that was the last time it buckled. I had to get it replaced. You might be onset of having your knee replaced.
Oh yeah, I had a fracture years ago, and I did, have a break in there in that knee, and so that's why it is. It's still sometimes, walking doesn't bother me, but stairs is a different thing. And so I just got up the wrong way, and it buckled on me. I stepped out and I almost went down. I said, ooh, look at this knee. So you have to be careful. You really have to.
Here's one more question before you move on. Does it feel like it's bone on bone? Because it would be so painful.
No, not like that yet.
All right,
I don't
good.
think it's like that yet. I don't think it's that bad.
Well, and I'm not a orthopedic doctor, of course, but perhaps he might need some injections. Before I have mine replaced, I went all the way up to the standard injections that they put in to your knee or remove fluid, all the way to silicone, and that was enough. I said, no, I know it's time to get it replaced. Once they reached the stage of silicone, I said, what's silicone? This is my knee we're talking about, not a house. You're not building a house. That's something you see silicone on a house or a car or something. I mean, you putting that in my knee. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
Oh yeah, they have a lot of things they can do now, to help you. If it gets bad, I will seek some help, more help, or look at it. But right now, it doesn't bother me while I'm walking, so I don't even bother it. But it also said here, number 2 was vehicle-related collisions. So a lot of traumatic brain injuries happen from people having car accidents. A lot of times people, they have that whiplash, or they have some headaches and things after having an accident because their head either hit something or something hit their head during the car accident. And even that pressure, that pressure of having a car accident. I saw one on one of our social media outlets of a particular one of the delivery trucks, and it got hit by a train, and it tore the whole back of the truck off, but the person was alive. And I know they were grateful to be alive, but even just watching it, you could see the pressure from that impact, that it probably still had some effects upon his body.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it did. And the other thing about motor vehicle and brain injury or head injury is not wearing a seatbelt, because that little tap, or like Jackie just mentioned, that vehicle that is struck from behind. Imagine if you get struck from behind or anywhere in a vehicle and you're not seatbelted and your head hit that windshield. Believe me, you're going to have some kind of brain damage once your head hits that windshield, because that windshield ain't moving.
Oh yeah, and we hear the word concussion a lot in sports and different things, but when you get a concussion, that is, in fact, can be a traumatic brain injury.
It is.
Where you lose consciousness, you can lose consciousness instantly for a short period of time, or it could be for hours.
And that's why in sports, when they could have so many concussions, then they enter the stage of having CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and that could only be diagnosed once they perform an autopsy on you. So, in order for them to determine that you had CTE, you would have to be dead. This is why they reached out to all the high schools and junior high schools and sports in general, because now they're finding it in cheerleaders that do these acrobatic flips and stuff. Because one NBA cheerleader fell trying to do a tumble on somebody, hit her head on that ballroom floor, and she died. They determined that she probably have CTE.
Yes, and then they had here, Dr. Glenn, number 3 is violence. You wouldn't think that a lot of people get a traumatic brain injury from violence, or that it would be in the top 5, but it definitely is one of the leading causes. It's number 3, violence. That people that have suffered violence, someone hit them in the head, or there was some kind of fight or some kind of attack, and this person suffered violence. You have to be very careful of those type of things. You might think that you're okay, and you could suffer a traumatic brain injury from the violence that you suffered.
And not only that, when speaking of violence, that includes what they call it, domestic violence. Because if it's once that person is in that initial shock, and that's what caused that brain injury and domestic violence, that's PTSD, which is a family of brain injury, post-traumatic stress disorder.
That's right. So we're talking about domestic abuse and domestic violence. And so also, gang activity and those different type of things.
Yeah.
Kids and stuff too, they can get into fights and stuff and then realize they've hit their head, or they've been hit, or have been knocked down, or landed on top of something and ended up with a traumatic brain injury. So there's a lot that can go in that area. And also number 5 is sports. We talked about sports injuries just a little bit ago. And so, even those that are out playing baseball, football, any type of sport, wrestling, whatever team that you could be on. And as you talked about tumbling or gymnastics, I mean, there's a lot of places and a lot of things where people in sports that are playing sports or participating in sports could end up with a traumatic brain injury. And so we're getting ready to go out on another break, and we're asking you to hang on right here with us and come right back so we can continue this subject. There's a few more things here that we just want to get out to you as we kick off Brain Injury Awareness Month. Come on right back here to Awesome Radio 106.9 FM, and we're looking forward to seeing you again.
And phone your neighbors and phone your friends. Have them tune in as well. You're listening to the Glenn Johnson Show, Awesome Radio. Back in a moment.
Hi, my name is Minister Cooper. I listen to Awesome Radio every day, 106.9. Now you have a blessed day.
Hi, this is Minister Andrew Davis. Are you overwhelmed with the cares of life? Are you stressed and don't know what to do? Does your spirit need encouragement? If the answer is yes, then tune in to Sound Biblical Truth on Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. and Friday at 7 o'clock p.m. Again, Sound Biblical Truth on Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. and Friday at 7 o'clock p.m. It will be food for your spirit and encouragement to your soul. And remember, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Have a safe and victorious week. God bless you.
We're back. You're listening to The Glenn Johnson Show. You can reach Glenn at glennjohnsonshow@gmail.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Awesome Radio 106.9 FM, WBIS-LP, Winterville, Ayden, Grifton, Southside, Greenville, North Carolina. I'm going to mention one thing before I give it back over to my co-host. Before we went to the break, you were talking about children and brain injury. So what I wanted to point out, going back to the diabetes, ketoacidosis, and I say, it's more commonly found in people with type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is that they don't produce insulin. Unlike type 2 diabetes, they still have to take insulin, but it's more manageable because their body is still producing insulin, so they're not that much concerned about, but they're still concerned. But type 1 diabetes is strictly insulin because they need it because their body don't produce it. So when I thought about that, and Jackie mentioned the children, I'm always concerned about our young adults, our children. Could you imagine how many children are walking around today that has no knowledge of diabetes or checking their sugar? You know, half our population of young adults or children could be walking around not knowing that they are diabetic, which is a form of juvenile diabetes. Because particularly teenagers, if I might say so myself, I was doing a little analysis. What's the average teenager eating? A lot of junk food, a lot of snacks, a lot of cookies, cakes, candies. They probably had no idea of what their glucose or their sugar level is. That is a problem, or that's a concern. Jackie?
Definitely. And Dr. Glenn, those problems with, being diabetic, they start a lot of times in the teen years or the late teen years. A lot of times kids and parents either, they like to indulge kids, give them whatever they want. They're eating all those sweets. They're eating all the fried food. They're eating all those chips and, the ones that the kids love called Takis. They eating all that type of thing, all different kinds of things. And they never think about the fact that you can, begin to develop diabetes from those poor eating habits. And a lot of kids, it is a struggle to get them to eat fruits and vegetables. A lot of them, I work in the system, and I see a lot of them throwing away so much food, and the majority of it is the fruits and vegetables because they're going to select that they don't want to eat that stuff.
Yeah, and this is not today's topic is not on diabetes, but since this is a correlation between the diabetic ketoacidosis and brain injury, that's why we're talking about it. So I just want to mention also, I had a conversation yesterday with a gentleman, and somehow we got on the topic about the diabetic, and he said, yeah, he saw this lady, and she looked kind of weak and everything. Come to find out, he said her sugar was 300. And he said, no, ma'am, no way, ma'am. If your sugar is 300 something, you should be laying out on the floor. But what he didn't know was, and I said, look, man, her sugar, it probably was 300. She checked it, it was 300 something. That's because my sugar also has been 300 and above. So it's not a given fact that once you do 300, you're just going to go diabetic coma or something. My sugar, when I first diagnosed with being a diabetic, my sugar was 900 and something going to 1,000. And till this day, my sugar levels can go up to 2 something or 3 something, but I'm taking my medication to keep it all low. So I told him, I said, look, you have to tell people the correct information. Just because your sugar is 200 or 300, don't cause them to go into a panic state or alarm, because it's different in everybody. Her body probably could withstand her sugar level being at 300, because normally she probably had low sugar. That's probably why I was so high. Like my blood sugar, and one from my endocrinologist told me, it's naturally high. So I have to take insulin. But your blood sugar can be 200 or 300 without any effects. So I told him I just want to make sure you're aware of that so you can give her the proper information.
Yes, definitely. And I know some people that have had, they've been into comas because of the fact of their sugar being high. And I wanted to say also, Dr. Glenn, that the children with the traumatic brain injury, another cause, we talked about falls, but we didn't really talk about them riding their bikes and also skateboarding and skates and all of these now, these electronic things that they're motorized things that they're riding on. Kids, they have a lot of things now that we didn't have. And even now, the hoverboard. So a lot of them, they're getting the traumatic brain injuries or from those particular falls. And I just want to admonish parents to really be watching your child, because there could be something that has a lifelong effect to it, and you haven't noticed that it happened from a fall.
And just by saying that, you brought something else to my attention. You don't know how many people in my subdivision that I have seen, I approached with their young child riding a bicycle without a helmet. One was this gentleman and his 11-year-old daughter. I had to stop because I was concerned about her. I know she was with her dad, but I stopped her. I think I mentioned this before. And I told him my story. I wasn't wearing a helmet, I went I had my accident, my motorcycle accident. After I got done telling that story, and the other individual I saw in my neighborhood without a helmet, I see them all every day now with their helmets on.
Definitely, and it is. It's the law here in this state that kids are supposed to have on a bicycle helmet.
That's right, it's a law.
It's the law here. A lot of places, but I'm remembering, Dr. Glenn, just a sidestep here, that when we were growing up, we could bust our head open and we was all right. You skinned your knee, you bro, almost your elbows hanging out, whatever is hanging off of you, and you still were okay. We survived a lot of things that other people now, we have to be so careful about.
Everything back in the day was put some little, rub some little salve or ointment on it.
That's right.
Put some
alcohol.
put some Vic 44 on it.
Some alcohol and a Band-Aid, and that was it for you.
Put that tussin on it.
That's right. We weren't as fragile as we see the kids now. So, I just thought I'd throw that in there. But number 5 is explosive blast or combat injury.
Yeah.
So number 5, the 5th highest main causes for traumatic brain injury are explosive blast and combat injury.
Yeah.
And, I was surprised not to see, strokes and different things on there as being a part of the number 5, the top 5, because I feel like there's a lot of people that have just suffered traumatic brain injury from having strokes and did those different other things,
a lot.
in their body, health-wise. And so I question the accuracy of this list, but that's what it said, and those were the top 5.
That list probably had to be updated. But speaking of blast and stuff like that, remember our guest from last year, the Marine Corps veteran, sustained his injury as a IDE, improvised explosive IED rather, improvised explosive device while he was serving in Afghanistan or Iraq. The tank blew up and he was inside the tank. He said it just felt like it was 1,000 degrees inside that tank, but that's how he got his brain injury. And perhaps we can have him on sometime during this month.
Definitely. So definitely to combat those soldiers and those that are fighting for our country, that is a real danger there. And even not just when they're in combat, but just they're practicing, or they're training, and using those particular explosives and different things when they're learning, how to do those things. There could be a traumatic brain injury that can happen from that.
Like one wife put it, her surgeon husband, they had to get him out of the house. Yeah, it got so bad, his PTSD, because PTSD to him, it was like he was reliving everything as it was still occurring. And that's a bad case of PTSD. They lived near railroad tracks. Every time he heard the train coming down the tracks, he thought somebody was coming to attack them inside the house. He was doing a lot of things to where the family decided they had to get him help. It got him to an inpatient facility just to get him out of the house. Then they worked on him. Now he's doing a whole lot better. But that was a real serious case of PTSD due to the blast, these things he experienced in combat.
Oh, yeah. And so I understand. I see those particular things. And Dr. Glenn, we're getting ready to go out on another break. And when we come back, we're going to talk and give a few more interesting facts about Traumatic Brain Injury Awareness Month. We're going to look at a few more things and give out a little bit more information before we come back for this break. You can also call in if you want, and I'll give the number when we come back. Keep it right here on Awesome Radio.
Thank you, Jackie. Back in a moment.
Keep it locked right here to the Glenn Johnson Show.
This is Max McLean. What is it like to follow the creator of all the earth? Listen to the Bible from Psalm 89. The heavens are yours, and yours also the earth. You founded the world and all that is in it. You created the north and the south. Your arm is endued with power. Your hand is strong. Your right hand exalted. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Love and faithfulness go before you. Blessed are those who have learned to acclaim you, who walk in the light of your presence, O Lord. They rejoice in your name all day long. They exult in your righteousness, for you are their glory and strength. From Psalm 89. Listen to the Bible. It's great for the soul.
Hi, my name is Minister Cooper. I listen to Awesome Radio every day, 106.9. Now you have a blessed day.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. You're still tuned into the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. We have reached our final 20 minutes of today's broadcast, so we have a lot more information to give out to you. So I'll just make this little disclaimer as we proceed, then give back over to my co-host. The information that we're sharing with you today is for your educational and information purposes. It's not to replace any medical advice you may receive from your doctor or hospital that you might attend. This is for educational information only for Brain Injury Awareness Month. Jackie.
And Dr. Glenn, I wanted to throw this in here, and I just want to admonish our listening audience and those that are listening to us by social media platforms. I want to say to you that if you know that you have a condition in your body or the doctor has informed you about a certain thing, especially like high blood pressure or that your sugar is going high and those type of things, make sure you get there and not begin to live in denial. You know, there's a lot of people say, oh, it's just a little bit of high blood pressure. And, you know, that very same thing, you know, without being treated or taken care of by medications that you need to bring that blood pressure down or to help manage your sugar, those particular things can cause you to have a stroke, aneurysm, or something, and you end up with a traumatic brain injury. I'm seeing a lot on social media, you know, these days of people that are broadcasting their relatives that have suffered, you know, traumatic brain injuries, or they're disabled and they're permanently disabled because of some event that maybe they didn't take care of or maybe they didn't know about that was happening in their body, and they're suffering lifelong consequences from those injuries.
Yeah, which is why I want to point out this. Should any of our listening audience want to avail themselves to some of the brain injury support groupings that we have online, virtual, or I think they started another one back up in Greenville. That would be in person. But if it's still virtual, just email me. I'll email you a document with all the links so you can attend their virtual brain injury support group meetings. Because sometimes we not only just talk about brain injury, we talk about other awareness and other issues that are affecting people. So by all means, email me at Glenn, Glenn, Johnson Show at gmail.com. I definitely want to give out the documents for the support group meetings. Jackie.
Yes, get there, get that checkup, get your blood pressure checked, get those things checked, get your blood checked, and see where you are and how your body is performing. You know, there are consequences to things, you know, and as even with our eating, if we're eating poorly, you're not going to be able to last with that forever. And you're going to have to be able at some point, and I don't want to say that this is across the board, because we know some people that ate poorly their whole life and ate whatever they wanted, didn't have any sickness, didn't have any consequences, didn't have any disease, and they're living right on, or they, you know, did some of the things that they were advised not to do, and they still lived a long time. So I don't want to say that it's everybody, but I'm just saying that a lot of times for a lot of people, you have to watch it. You're gonna have to change your eating habits as you get older. You know, there's some things you have to refrain from. The doctor starts showing you that your levels are up. Get there and get checked out so you can know what's going on in your body, that you're not surprised by something. You know, there's people, they'll sit there in 10 years, haven't been to the doctor, haven't had a checkup. You don't know what's happening on the inside of your body, or what your body is being ravaged by, with something that you could just change with your diet, or something that medication can help you be able to level out.
That's right, Jackie, because like you mentioned, you might need to get there and get checked out because everybody's body is different. Although we are experiencing the same things, but my body might can withstand things that your body can't, and vice versa. So I need to be checked out. Maybe you should need to be checked out, or maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you're doing all right. It's just like Jackie pointed out, this lady did this, did that. She's still alive, so maybe her body had that tolerance that would endure that, but maybe someone else don't have that same tolerance.
And genetics, you know, some things come down because that's just in your family bloodline. that's just how it is, you know, that your family bloodline suffers high blood pressure or suffers sugar diabetes or suffers different things. You know, there are people that, you know, they have generations of people having strokes or having traumatic brain injury from strokes or different things. So you have to see that everybody is not the same, like Dr. Glenn said. And I wanted to say here that this fact here said that TBI and traumatic brain injury, and that's what TBI stands for, is an epidemic and is a bigger problem than what we anticipate. So it's a lot more common than what we know. It's a lot more, there's a lot more going on with it. It says that it's a public health epidemic. It also said that studies suggest that more than 2% of the general population in America are living with a disability as a consequence of a traumatic brain injury. So living with a disability as a consequence of a traumatic brain injury, that's a lot of people. That 2% of people in this world are living with the consequences of a traumatic brain injury. So that's why I had to just implore you to make sure that you're looking out for things, you know, and we thank God for his grace. Thank God for his, you know, but by the grace of God, there go I. You know, but by the grace of God, any of us, you know, any high levels or anything in our body can turn into something that can be a permanent injury. Dr. Glenn?
And I want to just mention this about two of our listeners who have family members of individuals, rather than male or female, that might currently be incarcerated. So this does not include the general population or general public that's out and about every day. This includes also men and women that's incarcerated in prisons and jails and detention centers, and how they struggle with brain injury. Their brain injury might be a little different. There might be more or less a case of PTSD as a continued use of substance abuse, which is how they sustain their PTSD. Or when that judge ended them that lengthy sentence, and that sudden shock is what caused the brain injury in those individuals. So it's just not our average citizen walking about every day. It's also our incarcerated ladies and gentlemen as well.
Definitely. And those that suffer from traumatic events. And that's exactly what we're talking about concerning the prison system.
Yeah.
Is that it's a traumatic, it's something to be locked up and not have your freedom.
That's traumatic all by itself.
And being left in a place where you can't even help yourself or do anything for yourself, being told what to do, when to get up, when to go down, and sometimes being forced to do things that you don't want to, living in an environment where there are other people that are of a criminal element. And so I can imagine, Dr. Glenn, that is very, I can see where, you know, some of the men that are coming out or women that are coming out suffer from post-traumatic stress, because that's a stressful environment in itself, just to live in an environment like that.
And this is another reason why they're working on strengthening all these agencies that's supposed to support and help these people. This is why I love taking my time out to go speak at these events at these different universities and colleges, doing the first responders crisis intervention training. This is one of the things that I talk about.
It said here that every 15 seconds, someone suffers a traumatic brain injury. Yeah. So every 15 seconds that we have been talking, somebody has been injured or somebody suffered a traumatic brain injury.
And if I can refer to the information I have, documents that I have, research has been done, it says that almost 90% of North Carolinian incarcerated individuals have a brain injury.
Wow, to think that 90% of the people that are coming out or that are incarcerated have a traumatic brain injury or post-traumatic stress injury, brain injury.
Yeah, that's why they created the incarcerated intervention and I'm trying to think of the word. We'll get back to that in a minute. Jackie, you want to take it out the break?
Yes, we're getting ready to go out to another break. We're asking you to keep it right here. Keep it locked right here at Awesome Radio 106.9. And I forgot to give that number. That number is 252-756-2008. If you want to call in, we have a few more minutes on the air. You can be on and you can add in, or you can have some input on this subject on today. It's widespread, and many of us know someone that has suffered a traumatic brain injury. Keep it locked right here to Awesome Radio, and we'll be right back with you in a moment. Dr. Glenn.
The word I was looking for was justice initiative. We'll go into a little bit more about that when we come back from the break. This is 106.9 FM, WBIS LP. Back in a moment.
Come on, smile. Oh, honey, he's still not smiling.
Maybe he's not a smiler.
Yeah, maybe he's just not a happy baby.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Or maybe he's teething.
Maybe it's just a phase.
Maybe he has autism, and we can definitely do something to help.
Maybe is all you need to find out more about autism. No big, joyful smiles by 6 months is one early sign. Learn the others at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Spiral galaxies, such as our own Milky Way, have a cluster of stars in the middle and arms that spiral out. Astronomers have noticed that the outer stars, those in the spiral arms, seem to take more time to complete their orbit than those in the central portion of the galaxy. This means that after a few rotations, the spiral arms should lose their shape and basically disappear as the galaxy winds up. If the universe is billions of years old, there shouldn't be any galaxies left with a spiral shape. That's a problem for cosmologists who believe that the universe is 13.7 billion years old. But based on the biblical record, we still have spiral galaxies and blue stars because we live in a relatively young universe, designed with purpose. A universe that declares the glory of the Creator. I'm David Reeves. Truly, the heavens declare the glory of God.
For more information, visit David Reeves Ministries at davidreeves.com. DavidRives.com.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM, WBIS LP. You are still tuned into the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. I just want to take a brief second to explain what I wanted to explain before we went out to the break. That is the Justice Initiative. And essentially what they're doing is working with incarcerated individuals to help change their lives, to give them better alternatives, give them better opportunities, so when they are released, they can stay out instead of returning to prison to curb their recidivism. This is another reason why they work on changing the language in the criminal justice system. Instead of calling individual inmates or prisoners or felons, they're changing the language to include more positive phrases. I'm not going to get into all that because we just have 10 minutes to talk about brain injury. Jackie.
Definitely, Dr. Glenn. That's some good information for our listening audience. I wanted to say too here, and this is number 2 on our TBI Awareness Month sheet. It said that all traumatic brain injuries cannot be seen on CTs or MRIs.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So even, going, to the doctor after a fall or something, you may not be able to tell that traumatic brain injury is there by looking at it on a CT scan or MRI.
I'm so glad you just mentioned that because I wanted to share something with you about that. So when I had my accident and they did all this probing and prodding on me, not only did I have the CAT scan, MRI, blah, 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 I also had to have acupuncture. They were sticking pins and needles all over the place. You saw me. I looked like an electric man. I had so many wires and cables going everywhere. And I'm not saying that to be humorous. Look, they had stuff coming on my ears, around the back of my neck, everywhere. I'm talking about everywhere because of my brain injury.
Awesome, Dr. Glenn. I hear those things that you had to do for treatment. I wanted to say here too, and this is number 4, it says TBI can cause mental illness and suicidal ideation. That is something to think about.
Yeah.
That sometimes people might not understand that people are suffering from suicidal thoughts or having suicidal, episodes because of a traumatic brain injury or some head injury. especially young people. You know what I mean? When you think about young people that have gotten into fights or different things in their life, or they, sometimes they go through seasons where they're fighting with other people or other young people, or, having issues and this type of thing and being hit in the head and stuff. And then later on, having some suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, and that brings me to this part. Could you imagine the percentage of homeless individuals living on the street with a brain injury? That number is staggering also.
Definitely, Dr. Glenn, that is a big concern, is to know, and a lot of them, they suffer violence. They suffer violence from being out on the street and being homeless. Just, sometimes people like to take advantage of people that can't help themselves, or try to bother people or harm people that cannot fight back, just to be mean, just because they see them out there or they see them in need, and they just want to be abusive to them. So a lot of them, I could see that being an issue with a lot of them having mental illness, is from suffering head injuries.
And sometimes those people could be the most dangerous people to mess with, because you don't know what, like you say, you don't know what's going on with them. You don't know how they might react, or what they might react with.
Definitely. And some have to take, after TBI, traumatic brain injury, some of them have to take medication to help with their mental balance or their mental faculties, because of the fact that, they've had that head injury. I know some, they have to be on that, or else, that brain injury, that brain doesn't heal itself. They're no longer thinking right. They're no longer able to balance and control their thoughts like they were before they had that head injury. So there are times, this can have a large effect. Also wanted to say seizures. I miss saying that seizures can also cause a traumatic brain injury.
That's right.
That's a big one, especially for children. We didn't mention that concerning kids that have seizures or people that have seizures.
And if you're not aware of if a person had a seizure, you think they might have just passed out or fainted, there's a way to determine that they in fact had a seizure. And they call it chewing of the tongue. You would ask them to, open their mouth and look at the edges of their tongue. Then you might not see bite marks. You might see irritation from when they were chewing down on their tongue. They were unaware of it, that they were doing it. That's how you could tell they had a seizure. They were little irritation around the edges of their tongue.
So they can even be having seizures in the night and not know, and that's a sign that they're having seizures, is the bite marks on the tongue.
Yeah, because to dispel this myth, it is humanly and medically impossible to swallow your tongue. I know people have heard that in the past. They said, well, so-and-so have a seizure. Put something in his mouth, he swallows his tongue. It's impossible to swallow your tongue. That's a myth. That's why you look at the edges of their tongue to see if they have irritation where they're biting on their tongue and were unaware that they were doing it.
Definitely. And I think that's a great information about those that could be having seizures in the night or while they're sleeping and not even know that they're having seizures.
Yeah, because what I was told was, see, I'm on anti-seizure medication for the rest of my life, and I still get asked the question, well, when's the last time you had a seizure? I can't even remember having a seizure at all. I know I'm just on the medication for the rest of my life due to the result of the accident. But to my knowledge, I never had a seizure. And what I was told, if I had a seizure, I wouldn't know it anyway. You're not going to remember it.
Wow. But I think that, Dr. Glenn, that was great information as far as the seizures, to let people know. And I mean, I didn't know that. I've just heard that today, that biting, that injury to the edge of your tongue or irritation around it could mean that you're having seizures.
Yeah, they call that chewing of the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to send you the medical document concerning that.
Okay, good information. I think that is powerful. I think that particular tidbit on this show is a big help to a lot of people, that they'll be able to see that and be able to understand that, or maybe even go and get checked out themselves if they see that they have these injuries, that they could be having seizures in their sleep.
Yeah, and of course, if you see somebody that seems like they're having a seizure, the first thing, almost for certain, the first thing you do is dial 911, because you don't know what that person could end up doing to harm himself, or, just get up for that person as soon as you can.
Definitely. And if you suspect, it's always good to call for medical help to see about that person and see what's going on. I mean, they could not be having a seizure, but it's better to be safe than sorry.
That's right.
You know, and especially when it comes to kids, and if they have high fevers, especially the little ones, that's where you have to watch for those seizures. That can also end up in a TBI, a traumatic brain injury.
And I remember this from Sergeant Darnell. Some help is better than no help.
Some help is better than no help. Any help is better than no help.
That's right.
We want to say it like that. Any help is better than no help. And so, Dr. Glenn, we're getting ready to come to the end of our broadcast on today. I believe we gave out some very good information and some very good things, you know, that we talked about here for the public, that they will be able to look out for traumatic brain injury and become aware of things that are going on, and become aware of how to protect themselves, and also some warnings to look after your body. Dr. Glenn?
And as I pointed out, as we continue this Brain Injury Awareness Month, we'll be back with more relative information. But I pointed out that if you would like information on attending virtually the Brain Injury Support Group meetings, where we discuss not only brain injury, but somebody might have a question or comment about some other kind of medical condition. We do talk about other things that involve individuals. So by all means, you as a public person, you can join us as well. Email me at Glenn, Glenn, Johnson Show at gmail.com. I'll forward the documents to you.
Hey, come on back here next week and check out our show. We are going to probably have a guest on next week that's going to talk about traumatic brain injury. We're going to give out some more good information at that time. We're looking for you to come back next week at 3 o'clock.
And we have a caller calling in, but the caller is calling. We're about to end the broadcast. Caller, you got 20 seconds, caller. You're live on the air. Okay, I think that caller got disconnected, but let's try it again. Caller, you're live on the air.
Hello?
Yes, we got 10 seconds for the broadcast in. I'm sorry we got to hang up. Thank you for tuning in today, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you all.
Grandparenting isn't for the faint-hearted. More from Dr. Ken Canfield.